So welcome back to the Java OCP 21 series. I am Arup from ClusterMicro Technologies. So in the previous videos, we have covered the full range of Java.time classes: local date, local time, local date time, period, duration, instance, zone date time, and DST behavior. So in this final date time video, we are covering DateTimeFormatter. Formatting takes a DateTime object and produces a string, and parsing takes a string and produces a DateTime object. The OCP exam tests this topic very specifically around one thing: pattern letter case sensitivity. The pattern letters used in DateTimeFormatter are case sensitive, and one wrong capital or lowercase letter completely changes the meaning of the pattern. So in some cases it changes the output silently. In other cases it causes a runtime exception. By the end of this video you will know every pattern letter that the exam tests and exactly what each one means. So let's start with the formatting. So there are two operations with DateTimeFormatter. Formatting goes from a DateTime object to a string. You have a local date and you want a string like 25-03-2025. Okay, so parsing goes the other direction. You have a string like 25-03-2025 and you want a local date object. Both directions use the same DateTimeFormatter. The same pattern that defines how the string looks is used for both formatting and parsing. Okay, so let us look at the formatting first. So we have DateTimeFormatter.AFMT1, then DateTimeFormatter.ofPattern dd-MM-yyyy, and then string s1 equal to LocalDate.of 2025,3,25.format fmt1. Okay, so we have DateTimeFormatter is created using static factory method of pattern. So we pass a string containing the pattern. The pattern defines how the date will be presented as text. So let me decode this pattern character by character. So we have dd, which is lowercase d, 2 characters. This represents the day of the month with 2 digits. Okay, so if the day is a single digit like 5, it is padded to 05. So March 25th produces 25, and then dash a literal hyphen. So this is not a pattern letter, it is a literal character that appears as is in the output. And then we have uppercase M, 2 characters. Okay, so this represents the month number with 2 digits. March is month 3 and padded to 03. Then another literal hyphen and then yyyy, lowercase y, 4 characters. This represents the 4-digit year. 2025 produces 2025. Okay, so put it all together, day, month, year is 25/03/2025. And then in lines 2 we have string s1 equal to LocalDate.of 2025,3,25.format fmt1. So the format method is called on the LocalDate object, taking the formatter as an argument. So it applies the pattern to the date fields and produces the string 25-03-2025. Notice the direction of the call. It is date.format formatter. So the format method is on the DateTime object, not on the formatter. Some people get this backwards. Okay, the formatter is the argument, the date is one calling format. Okay, then we have DateTimeFormatter fmt2 and equal to DateTimeFormatter.ofPattern dd-MM-yyyy, then hhm. Okay, string s2 equal to LocalDateTime.of 2025,3,25,10,30.format fmt2. And what happens here? So let me decode this pattern. So dd again, day with 2 digits, same as before. So March 25 is 25th is 25, then slash literal forward slash appears as is, then MMM. So uppercase M, 3 characters. This is where it gets interesting. Okay, the number of M characters changes what it is produced. Okay, so if we have M, then month number without padding. Okay, 3. If we have MM, then month number with 2 digits, 03. If we have MMM, then 3 digits, 3 M's, then we have month abbreviation. Okay, it will be MAR instead of March. Okay, and if we have MMMM, 4 letters of M, then we have full month name March. Okay, so MMM gives us the 3-letter abbreviation MAR. Okay, then we have slash, another little slash, then yyyy, 4-digit y, 2025 space, then HH. Okay, so uppercase H, 2 characters. This represents the hour in 24-hour clock format, 0 to 23 with 2 digits. and 10 AM produces 10, midnight produces 00. This is the 24-hour format, and then colon and then lowercase m and 2 characters. This represents minutes with 2 digits. Then 30 minutes produces 30. So full pattern result is 25/MAR/2025, then space, then 10:30. Okay, and then we have LocalDateTime.of 2025, 3, 25, and the 10, 30 dot format FMT2. Okay, so we are formatting a local date time here, not a local date, because this pattern includes a time component, HH:MM. So a local date has no hour or minute field. Okay, so using a time pattern on a local date would cause a date time exception at runtime. So always match the pattern to the type of object you are formatting. Okay, then we have LocalDate D equal to LocalDate.of 2025, 3, 25, and then d.format DateTimeFormatter.iso LocalDate. Okay, so DateTimeFormatter comes with a set of predefined constant formatters for most of the common formats. You do not need to create this with OP-pattern. They are ready to use as constants on the DateTimeFormatter class. DateTimeFormatter.iso LocalDate formats a local date in the standard ISO 8601 format, yyyy-MM-dd. For 25th March 2025, it produces 2025-03-25. Okay, so there are many predefined formatters: ISO local date 2025-03-25, ISO local time 10:30-45, ISO local date time 2025-03-25, 10:30-45, and ISO zone date time includes the zone offset and zone name. Okay, so for the exam, ISO local date is the most commonly referenced. Know that LocalDate.parse 2025-03-25 with no formatter argument, it uses this ISO format by default. Okay, we will see this in the parsing section in the next slide. Okay, so parsing is the reverse of formatting. Instead of converting a datetime object to a string, we are converting a string to a datetime object. The same pattern that we used for formatting is used for parsing. The pattern tells Java how to interpret the characters in the string. Okay, so examples, if you see LocalDate parse D1, then LocalDate.parse 2025-03-25, then LocalDate parse D2, then LocalDate.parse 25-03-25, FMT1. So the one argument version of parse, the first example, just the string, no formatter. Okay, so when you call parse with only one argument, LocalDate uses the ISO 8601 default format, yyyy-MM-dd. Okay, the string 2025-03-25 matches this format very exactly. Okay, the 4-digit year hyphen 2-digit month hyphen 2-digit day. Okay, the result is a local date representing 25th March 2025. This is the simplest and most common parsing pattern. If your string is already in ISO format, year first, then month, then day, all with hyphens, then you do not need a formatter at all. Okay, then we have LocalDate.parse D and LocalDate.parse 2025, then -03-2025, then comma FMT1. So this is a 2-argument version, string plus formatter. So FMT1 is the dd-MM-yyyy formatted we created earlier. The string 25-03-25 is in day, month, year order, which does not match the ISO default. So we must tell parse which pattern to use. Okay, Java reads the string according to the pattern. dd reads the first 2 characters as day 25, the hyphen is consumed. Okay, mm reads the next 2 characters as month 03, which is March, the hyphen is consumed, and then yyyy reads the last characters as year 2025. Okay, the result is the same local date as parsed one, 25th March 2025. If the string does not match the pattern, for example, if you pass 25/03/2025 but used dd-MM-yyyy, so formatter that expects hyphens, Java throws DateTimeParseException. Okay, instead of slash you are using hyphen. Okay, so that will throw DateTimeParseException at runtime. So this is not at compile time. Okay, the code will compile, it fails at runtime. You have to remember that. Okay, then in the next code we have pattern case sensitivity. Then A month number 1 to etc. Capital M month number 1 to 12, then AM equal to minute, then H hour 0 to 23, D equal to day of month. So this is the most important section of this entire slide and the primary source of exam questions on the date time formatter. Every pattern letter is case sensitive. Uppercase and lowercase versions of the same letter mean completely different things. So one wrong character in your pattern, one single capital or lowercase change completely changes the output or causes a runtime exception. Okay, so if you see capital M versus small m, it is month versus minute. Okay, so just understand capital M versus small m is month versus minute. This is the number one trap. It is the most commonly tested case sensitivity error on the OCP exam. Capital M equal to month, number of M characters control the format. Okay, capital M month number without padding, so 3 for March, 1 if 1 M is there. If there are 2 M, then month number with 2 digits, 03 for March. If there are 3 M's, then month abbreviation MAR. Then if there are 4 M's, then full month name March. Okay, and then we have lowercase m, that is minute. Number of M characters control the format. So if we have 1 M, it is minute without padding, 5 for 5 minutes past. And then we have MM, right? Two small m in lowercase, so minute with 2 digits, 05 for 5 minutes past. Okay, so capital MM means month and small case MM means minute. They look almost identical, one capital, one lowercase. Okay, then we have capital H versus small h, 24-hour versus 12-hour. So capital H is 24-hour clock and values 0 to 23. Midnight is 0 or 00. 10 PM is 22. Lowercase h equal to 12-hour clock. Values 1 to 12. So if you use lowercase h, you almost always need to also include a small a in your pattern, the AM PM marker. Okay, otherwise the output is very ambiguous. 10:30 in 12-hour format could be morning or evening. Okay, and HH in capital, that is 24-hour, 2 digits, and then small HH is 12-hour, 2 digits. Okay, so then we have small d versus capital D, that is day of month versus day of year. Okay, so lowercase d is day of month, values 1 to 31, then 25th March is 25, but capital D equal to day of year, so values 1 to 365 or 366. 25th March 2025 is 84 because January has 31 days, February has 28, and we are 25 days into March. Okay, and if you use D, when you meant D, your output will show 84 instead of 25. Okay, so the code compiles, it will run, it just produces the wrong result. So if you have lowercase y, it's calendar year. For small lowercase y, yyyy, it will be 2025. This is what you want in almost all cases. But if you have capital Y, that is week-based year. Okay, this is the year of the ISO week. Okay, so for most dates it is the same as the calendar year, but for dates in the last week of December or first week of January, the week-based year can differ by 1 from the calendar year. Always use lowercase y for the year unless you specifically need week-based year. Okay, then we have DateTimeFormatter wrong equal to DateTimeFormatter.ofPattern dd-MM-yyyy and string bad equal to LocalDate.of 2025 325 format wrong. Okay, this is the exam demonstration of the case sensitivity trap in action. Okay, so you have to look very carefully. DateTimeFormatter wrong equal to DateTimeFormatter.ofPattern dd-MM-yyyy. So look at carefully at the pattern. Okay, dd-MM-yyyy. So the month is written as small m, lowercase m, but the lowercase m mean minutes, not month. We accidentally wrote the minutes pattern where the month should be. So does this line throw an exception? No. Op pattern does not validate whether the pattern makes logical sense for a given date type. It just stores the pattern. This line will compile and run without error. Then we have string bad equal to LocalDate.of 2025, 3, 25 format wrong. This is where it fails. Okay, when format tries to apply the pattern dd-MM-yyyy, then MM, then yyyy to a local date. It reaches the component and tries to read the minutes field from the local date object. But local date has no minutes field. It has a date class, year, month, and day. So no time component at all. So Java will throw a DateTime exception at runtime, unsupported field, minute of hour. The code will compile successfully, but it will fail only at runtime. Okay, so thanks for your time. Let us meet in the next video. If you got value from this video, please like and subscribe. It genuinely helps this series reach other OCP candidates who need it. Okay, so if you want to practice OCA questions right now, you can go to javalearn.clustermicro.com. Over 1600 questions are there, and they are timed exams, detailed explanations, and free trial available. So OCP 21 practice questions are also coming soon. You can email ab.clustermicro@gmail.com if you want early access notification. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for your time.